Hi, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to our press conference for Demand Climate Justice, which is on false solutions. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers here, so I won't get into I won't take much time. But just to say that we thought it is really important and key to have this press conference as we are entering the middle of week 2. And what we can see happening is there is a complete lack of serious, real, adequate public finance on the table, as we all know, and that's a big issue here. But as a kind of fallout of that, and linked to that, has been this kind of unprecedented, quite anti-procedural push of the Article 6.4, and the carbon markets, which brings with it a huge amount of disaster in terms of impacts, climate impacts. And what we know is that the carbon markets in the end will give us climate breakdown because they don't reduce emissions and they have huge impacts. So what we need the governments to do here in this week is to prevent them from going ahead, to actually get serious about looking at what's in the detail of these, and my colleagues will tell us more. So I would like to pass the mic first to Tom Goldtooth from Indigenous Environmental Network. Tom, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been over 2 decades since carbon emissions trading using forests as carbon sinks and offsets in a global regime of climate capitalism called carbon markets. When I first heard of this, of these so-called plans for mitigating a changing climate, I went to the indigenous spiritual authorities for guidance. It was interpreted through our ceremonies that this marketing and trading of carbon in the modern industrialized world is a violation of the sacred. Bottom line, they said it was all about money, but said it was about the control of air, of the trees, and eventually all of life. They said it will not be easy to change the minds of these people, and many have no heart. They said it would feed the big black snake and the giants that will eat the souls of all people, telling untruths with many temptations, with false promises of making a better life. The spiritual authorities said it will be a long fight, but never give up. I have witnessed all this to come true. The unprecedented bypass of procedure of Article 6 at this COP29 demonstrates a desperate attempt to rush more carbon markets, offsets, and carbon removal technologies. Over 20 years of failed carbon markets have resulted in indigenous peoples' rights violations, land grabbing, and disproportionate impacts. The COP29 and its parties, it's the governments that have heart, must address our demands to end the era of carbon markets, offsets, and carbon pricing. Carbon markets and offsets do not cut emissions as what was said. Carbon markets and offsets is not climate finance. We say no to the global grab of indigenous peoples' territories in name of saving the climate and of nature. Polluters are using false solutions to are given a permit to pollute. Climate justice with strong, effective human rights and rights of indigenous peoples' mechanisms is needed more than ever to prevent the slavery of Mother Earth, Father Sky, and all life as we know it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. I would like to pass now to Linda Gonzalez, who is from Sensat in Colombia, Friends of the Earth, Colombia.
Thank you, and hello, everyone. I would like to start with a question for all of us that are here in COP29, and it's why do we insist on an ineffective mechanism to address the climate and environmental crisis? What we need to insist that in the market and in the private sector, we will find the solution to a problem that was generated by these same actors and the same interests. And here I'm talking about carbon markets, as we are going to talk about, as a false solution to the climate crisis, and which is again and again being promoted in this same space. And why we say that carbon market is a false solution. First, the carbon market is not a new mechanism. Since the Kyoto Protocol, its conceptual origin was projected, and it passed a lot of years, based on the idea of offsetting. And the worldwide implementation since 2003 and its strong deployment after 2010, mainly of RED+ projects, that means reducing emission from deforestation and degradation. Since then, several civil society organizations have expressed their voice of rejection, taking into account the socio-cultural impacts that have been caused in different territories, both private and jurisdictional projects too. And for example, some of the denunciations made by indigenous people and communities, camponesas, campesinas, and Afro-descendant communities too, especially too this year in the Brazilian Amazon and in the Colombian Andes, mention some of the problems that these mechanisms generate and that most of times are invisible in these spaces, for example, as exacerbation of internal social and cultural conflicts, exclusion of women from the decision-making process, restriction in the access and use of common goods, promotion of technicalities and disinformation about the projects itself, but about climate action policy too. It does not fulfill its objective of reducing deforestation. It has generated threats to social leaders. It violates autonomy and life plans, among others that was highlighted for different communities too. And I invite you to join this action as a civil society that has the privilege of being in this space. We also have the responsibility to amplify the voices of people who couldn't be there with us. And second, that I think that is the most important to consider in this space, we have at least 20 years of the existence of this market and a little more than 30 years since the strengthening of the green economy paradigm starts. It is essential to evaluate whether this market has really been effective for the purpose objectives after this time. Is there an absolute reduction of emissions in the world? Have these markets helped the strengthened local communities or to contribute to the economic growth of the underdeveloped countries? Well, in this space, for example, the General Secretary of the United Nations mentioned last year that companies should invest in ways to reduce their own emissions instead of relying on the multi-billion-dollar carbon trading market. He also stated that in the face of rising global temperatures, fossil fuel addiction and climate inaction are the main culprits. In that context, if the carbon market has not helped mitigate or stop the climate crisis, it has not reduced emission, and if it has not helped the economic growth of local communities and third world countries, why we still continue to insist on it? It is urgent to evaluate whether these markets should continue to exist, and of course listen the demands and build some alternatives to crisis. And of course the answer is not in the market and the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. I would like now to pass to Agus Hastutik from WALHI, Indonesia and Global Forest Coalition.
Thank you, Kirtana. I'm Agus. I'm with WALHI, Friends of the Earth Indonesia, also a member of Global Forest Coalitions. My home country, Indonesia, is facing a serious impact of the climate crisis. As the biggest archipelagic country and also one of the biggest owners of tropical forests and also located in the Ring of Fire, the impact of climate crisis of communities in Indonesia in vast landscape are very diverse. But instead of addressing to these issues, addressing to the roots of the problem, the Indonesian government, the solutions that they provide on the table is not directly addressing this. We say that the current solutions on the carbon market and other false solutions are only adding to the injustice that has been faced by communities in Indonesia. It is the offsetting scheme directly and indirectly causes injustice to the wider community, be it economically, environmentally, to the people who have long dwelt in the area and have done so much to protect their resources in Indonesia. We say that the implementations of the market mechanism and natural permits add long to the chance of conflict with the community, because this is a systemic seizures of land and forest under the keys of green and climate recovery and also finance adaptations actions. But so instead of solving these issues that are happening on the ground, the government are still choosing a market scheme. There are still so many solutions that our government in Indonesia could go. The first thing is about much more profitable option, such as encouraging non-market climate financing. We should, as a developed countries in the global south, who suffers a lot from the climate crisis, the government of Indonesia should demand for a recovery for the past colonizations that has been done in our country, in many developing countries in Indonesia. But this is not what they done. They are doing the opposite by selling us out, by selling us the indigenous people and also local communities who have the rights to manage the resources. And this is only adding to the long conflict that is happening in Indonesia. And in addition to that, the government is also using this scheme and claim that it is going to give a greater impact to Indonesia. On the other hand, the government of Indonesia has claimed that with this carbon market scheme, it has also contributed to the decrease of the emissions and also to the decrease of deforestation rate in Indonesia, which is also not true because the deforestation rates become irrelevant if because it has moved to, if you look in the map in the regions of Sumatra and Kalimantan, it is true the deforestation rate has decreased because it has reached a point of depletion, meaning that there is no more resources for the government of Indonesia to be exploited. But the reality is much more different and also much more damaging, because right now the deforestation in Indonesia is moving to the eastern part of Indonesia, like not to mention those so-called national strategic projects that are being promoted to bring quote-unquote welfare to the people, but in reality it is still extractive in nature, seizing the people's managed area and only bringing more injustice to the people. This is the reality that we have in Indonesia, but the government of Indonesia is, doing, putting the blanket by using all this kind of false solution on the table to address the climate crisis that is happening on the ground. In addition to that, I would also like to briefly mention that the false solutions that are being proposed by the Indonesian government is not only in the form of carbon market, but the Indonesian government is also capitalizing the energy transition issue in a way that to fulfill the electric vehicle. This electric vehicle is caused by, produced from nickel mining industry. And unfortunately, a lot of nickel mining in reserve in Indonesia are located in high ecologically areas, meaning that when the extractions happen, it's not only hurting in the upstream area, but also in the downstream area. And this is the reality that the government choose to neglect and, claim themselves, confident in themselves that they are bringing, shifting the transitions through these, productions of nickel mining, while in reality, the process of extraction is far from being, environmentally friendly. So what are the solutions? We believe that the communities on the ground, be it in Indonesia and around the world, has shown real progress, right? So this should be the attentions of, all the government around the world. It is time to all the world leaders to immediately, protect, enact strict laws and policy that recognize the indigenous peoples and also local communities' right to fully protect their forests and eliminate deforestation through the supply chains on land-based industry. Indigenous people and also and their sustainable management practices of natural resources are the solutions of the climate crisis. They are also the ones who keep our forests standing and healthy. They are also, their rights must be at the heart of all nature protection policies. There is no point in talking about nature protection if we do not protect the rights of the people who preserve the forest. Rejecting carbon trading schemes and all kind of so we reject all kinds of carbon trading scheme and all kinds of false solutions, because we believe that this is a new form of colonialism through false solution scheme. We say that we should put the indigenous people and also local communities' rights at the heart of climate solution. Thank you.
And finally, we would really glad to have with us Yusuf Baloch from the Alliance of Non-Governmental Radical Youth. Yusuf, please.
Thank you. The growing push for pole solutions such as carbon markets and geoengineering is a support solution to the climate crisis. Geoengineering refers to large-scale technological intervention designed to manipulate the Earth system, its oceans, lands, and atmosphere. These technologies are often presented as innovative solutions, but they're false promises that distracts from the real work needed to combat the climate crisis. It does not address the root causes of the climate crisis, the over-reliance on fossil fuels, overconsumption, and environmental destruction. Instead, it offers the dangerous illusion that we can fix the planet while continuing businesses as usual. These technologies are risky and speculative with potentially catastrophic consequences, disrupting ecosystem, altering weather patterns, and harming biodiversity are just some of the risks they pose. It gives polluters a free pass, letting them delay meaningful emissions reductions while experimenting with our planet's future. These technologies come at a huge cost to livelihood and ecosystem, especially in vulnerable communities. Geoengineering exacerbates colonialism and inequality as its impacts disproportionately harm the global majority while benefiting wealthy corporations and nations. The fight against climate change demands urgent, coherent, and equitable action. Geoengineering is a distraction, a false promise that risks worsening the crisis while ignoring its root causes. We must reject these dangerous interventions, uphold the precautionary principle, and focus on solutions that are just, sustainable, and rooted in the protection of people and the planet. We must address the broader system of militarization and industrial growth that fuel climate destruction. Military operations are some of the largest polluters in the world, and their infrastructure often props up extractive industries. Demilitarization is a critical step in reducing emissions, freeing up resources for genuine climate action, and dismantling system of operation. Decarbonize, decolonize. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yusuf, for that much needed. We have a few minutes now for any questions from the audience. No comments. Please go ahead.
As someone from Paraguay, I see how the global north, colonial legacies, and ongoing corruption undermine the global south credibility when we're seeking for funds, funding, or loans for the green growth. What systems can we ensure for the transparency in fund allocation and public green resource management? And how can I, the youth, can actively monitor projects to reduce this mismanagement of funding for green growth?
Somebody want to take that question? What are the ways to ensure that, to monitor, if I understood, what are the ways to monitor actually what is coming into countries like Paraguay in terms of this market-based financing, and what can youth activists and organizations do to stop?
Can I answer in Spanish, maybe? Okay, thank you. Sorry, but it's not my mother language, the English. Yo creo que el rol de las organizaciones, si entendí también bien la pregunta, está justamente en hacer seguimiento en cómo realmente estos mecanismos, no solo el mercado de carbono, sino otro tipo de soluciones que se presentan como soluciones, realmente logran los propósitos que estamos buscando en estos espacios, que el primero básicamente es la reducción de emisiones. Lo que hemos visto al menos con el mercado de carbono, no conozco el caso de Paraguay, pero sí de Brasil y de Colombia, es que no ha habido efectivamente esas reducciones y que además el propósito de la distribución de recursos tampoco ha sucedido, sobre todo en espacios donde las comunidades han estado por mucho tiempo y tienen el papel de justamente pues cuidar ese espacio, ¿no? Entonces creo que lo que debemos hacer justamente es hacer seguimiento a eso, pero además poder democratizar un poco la información, ¿no? Como puedes ver, estos espacios son muy específicos para un perfil de organizaciones y personas, y mucha gente de comunidades que han sido también contactadas para este tipo de mercados, pues están a la expectativa de la información. Entonces creo que nos compete regresar todo eso que hemos visto que no ha sido tan agradable y que requiere justamente pues ese acompañamiento. Espero haber entendido bien la pregunta.
I'll do just a 1-minute summary for those of us who don't speak Spanish, a very quick one. I think Linda Gonzalez from Colombia was saying that they have a long experience of these kind of carbon market and carbon credit projects. For example, she does not know, or hasn't seen them in Paraguay, but in Brazil, yes, and in Colombia and in other places. And what we can see is that they are, they enter the territories, there's no distribution of funds, it doesn't actually reach down to the territories, and then supposedly it does, but then for the people who are living on the ground, they are the ones who have been preserving the forest for a long time, and they are not seeing any benefits of this. And also a big issue is the lack of information. We do not actually know what's happening because it's kind of many voluntary schemes, it's so complicated, and so there's a big need to demand the information of what's happening, and also to accompany the communities to understand and information flows, and also to talk about it and put it out there, if I'm right. We have 4 minutes for another question. Please, go ahead.
So the panel is focused on false solutions. I would like to ask, what do real solutions look like, and what does finance for that look like? If you could share a little bit more.
What do real solutions look like, and what does finance look like? I don't know, Tom or Agus, if you want to take that. Yeah.
Well, bottom line, I think it's simple, but it's very complicated in these hallways of the conference of the parties. There has to be a phase out of fossil fuels, a commitment. They have to keep fossil fuels in the ground. I'm seeing figures that, in fact, it's financially feasible for clean, renewable energy as an alternative. That's bottom line. The bathtub is full of carbon dioxide and it's overflowing in the atmosphere. There's no way to keep that happening. So it is phase out and keep fossil fuels in the ground and make this just, equitable transition away from a fossil fuel economy. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to briefly add, I think the real solution is, of course, number one, for this company to significantly decrease their carbon emissions, and number two is to support this initiative from the communities on the ground who are combating the climate crisis. For instance, I will give you an example of Indonesia. Right now, the development of Indonesia is uniform in a sense that all regions from Sumatra to Kalimantan to Papua, it's all the same. palm oil, nickel mining, gold mining, and all these things are extractive, seizing people's land, and also not democratic. So what are the solutions? The solutions on the ground should be based on the carrying capacity of the environment, and for instance, I will give you an example of Indonesia. There is communities who manage their land not in monoculture, so they intercrop their land with one communities with many other communities. So it gives not only the environmental benefit, increasing the forest cover, but also economic benefit and also increasing the diversity. This community-led initiative should be at the heart of climate finance in the future, because they are bringing the real changes on the ground, and also help to absorb with their model of intercropping and management that is also rely on the local wisdom. They absorb the emissions. I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the real solutions lies within the wisdom of indigenous communities. Can you hear me now? Okay. So I just wanted to mention that the real climate solutions lies within the wisdom of indigenous communities. So we need to bring indigenous communities within these platforms and conferences and policy making to make sure that your voices are heard, and include them in different platforms. And I think that's just what I wanted to mention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. We have some actions today in at 10:30 near the entrance. Please do come and join us. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. Sorry, I didn't reply. Just tell you how to remove your mask. No one understood anything.
Sorry, guys. No, yeah.